Hi everyone. Growing up, my experience with science and faith was kind of shaped largely by the two didn't have to be in conflict. Um, I went to a Catholic school growing up, like through my middle school years, and so in that community, faith was very centralized, but like we've very much made science never be dismissed because there is a lot of Catholic priests that were scientists that looked at the Big Bang Theory and stuff like that. So science was kind of seen as a tool for understanding like God's creation and how it works, and rather than something that kind of competes with the belief in God. And I was taught that faith answers the why questions of existence, and science kind of explains just the how. And I would say the model that best represents my community's perspective on science and faith is the integration model. That the model suggests that science and faith are distinct but also complementary. And they operate in kind of different like areas, but together they provide the full understanding. And science explains like the natural processes through observation and experimentation, all that, where faith is more like meaning and purpose and moral grounding, stuff that like science just can't provide. And before learning about the Big Bang Theory, I kind of had mixed assumptions about it. I kind of always heard it as the theory that kind of contradicted the biblical account of creation, and it challenged the book of Genesis almost. And so in that view, I tended to view the Big Bang Theory with skepticism and not really believing it was kind of like the atheist way of saying why the Earth became the Earth. And so I didn't initially realize that the theory doesn't attempt to explain why the universe exists, only how it began to like expand and grow and stuff like that. And so I think learning about George's Lemaitre significantly like changed that perception for me. And he was both a Catholic priest and a physicist, which already kind of challenges how I talked about earlier that faith and science are incompatible. And so him being a Catholic priest actually shows that they can come together. And he kind of just developed the idea of the expanding universe, which later became the Big Bang Theory. And so the distinction became clear in his reaction to Pope Pius, when the Pope suggested the Big Bang Theory served as like scientific proof of creation, and it supported Christian doctrine. And so Lemaitre strongly disagreed. He believed that using scientific theory as direct evidence for it was inappropriate, and he argued that like science and faith answer different kinds of questions and shouldn't be used to validate one another in simple ways. And so Lemaitre's response kind of closely connects to the models of science and faith that we've discussed, and especially the non-conflict through distinction. And he recognized the limits of science, and that it can't answer like God's intentions and stuff like that. And so I also think this relates to last week's discussion about the applications and limits of science. Like science is very powerful, but it's not all encompassing. And when science is pushed kind of beyond its proper boundaries, it's very much misused. And so I just think Lemaitre reinforces the idea that faith does not need to fear science, and science does not need to replace faith. And so instead they can both coexist.